Hey everybody, it's Christy Gessler, the dependent agent. I am coming at you today from my office here at the Freedom 512 Real Estate Group, and I am very excited to be here again today to have a chance to talk to you guys. And I'm actually really excited about today's episode because I am going to touch on some topics that I want to talk about, and it is going to be uncomfortable for some of you to hear. It's going to be uncomfortable for some of you to think about who it is that I'm actually talking about, and those of you in my industry locally will have a great time trying to determine who it is that I'm speaking of. I am not trying to hide anything or, distort anything. I want to just share my memories and my thoughts and some of my opinions on my experiences when I was leaving real estate sales and heading into brokerage management, and kind of what that process was for me, and some things that I take away from it now that helped me greatly. One thing in the dependent agent process that I'm trying to create is community and a forum to talk about addiction, depression, and anxiety in our industry, but where does it come from? I think it's healthy for us to get a couple topics out there in the open about it. And this topic today that I want to talk about is all about my experience with Keller Williams and being a Keller Williams team leader. So I maybe already hit a few buzzwords for some of you out there listening right now that may have had experience being a Keller Williams team leader, and there's probably a lot of wonderful memories rushing over you right now, and there may be some more challenging memories rushing over you right now. And hell, you may still be a Keller Williams team leader right now listening to this podcast. I'd be surprised if anybody wants to listen to my story from there, but I would hope so. And I think there's a lot of people that share a similar story to me. So please understand that when I share this, I'm not sharing any of this information to be negligent or slanderous or ugly or deliberately try to hurt anyone or talk ugly about anyone or anything. I want to be clear. I'm talking about my experience, my feelings, because what I want to understand and what I want to try to express to you is what that element in my life did to me in my story of addiction and recovery. So please offer me a little grace on that. Understand that I am not speaking in anything other than what my experience was, what I was told or heard, but I am not sharing anything that I did not directly hear myself or experience myself. I want to be clear about that. No gossip, no secondhand weird information, nothing like that. So thank you for that. Just wanted to get that little disclaimer, but an important note out. If from my heart, I do not mean ill intent by this. I absolutely am just talking about it because it is so important in my life and in my journey. So back in 2011, I was really struggling with how I wanted to frame my career and where it was going at that point. I had been doing great in real estate sales. I had some good experience getting built up. And I thought, man, if my end game is owning and running a brokerage one day, let's always be open to opportunities. And at the end of 2011, an opportunity came about. And another realtor came to me and said, hey, a job is opening up at this market center in Cedar Park, and I think you should explore what it means. And so I said, okay, why not? Again, I'm never going to leave a stone unturned or try something new if I think it's going to be of benefit. And if it's got a shot at being of benefit, I'm going to give it a run. So I started the process, and I even went to the step of flying to Orlando that year for their family reunion, which is the Keller Williams convention. Those of you that have gone in the past or whatever know what I'm talking about. It's a great time, lots of great networking, great interactions, an insane amount of partying, though. Absolutely insane amount of partying. Always has been, always will be, I think. But again, a great event, and I wanted to go explore it and experience it. I'd been recruited as a salesperson by many companies, but I had never gone to this event for Keller Williams, and I thought, what a great opportunity to go. So as I'm being courted to be the team leader, the market center offered to pay for me to go, and I thought, well, hot damn, that's a step in the right direction. That's a nice benefit. Okay. Little did I know that was not the norm, but anyway. part of the dance, right? So I went on, went to Orlando. I had a great time, complete deer in the headlights situation. But on the trip there and back, I wrote copious notes about questions and observations and did some little research and watched YouTube videos. And I went through and I tried to learn about Keller Williams as a company. And I tried to understand as quickly as I could, because after that visit or that trip, the pressure was on for me to sign on the dotted line. And I was going to be signing almost very soon thereafter to become the team leader, or the co-team leader at the time, I should say. So I really, kind of fast forwarded through some of that information, but I could understand enough to know that they were driven by profit. Obviously, there's a profit share program, so the more profits you make, the more there is to share. You're able to do that because to get profits, you grow the company, which means you bring agents into your downline. Okay, we've set up an MLM. I got it. Okay. And now we are doing some other ways to make money. And it looks like staff gets bonuses based on performance, I think. Okay. And it looks like a company of numbers. Check. And it looks like it's a company of lots and lots of reports. Check. Okay. So I was just going through all these, but I was kind of going through it pretty quickly at that point. And I thought, you know what, Christy, just go for it. And then I asked, well, what do you make for salary? And I was told a base salary, and it was really low. And I was like, okay, that's probably less than a quarter of what I'm making right now. Okay, well, I guess I'll give that a shot. Oh, right, because there was all those other ways to make money. Okay, so I thought, well, okay, surely it's working, because all these people here are rich beyond measure. At least they act that way. They don't look it, but they act it. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, let's just keep, all right. Hey, listen, as y'all get to know me through this podcasting process, you'll learn that part of my personality is just go with the flow, and Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, go for it. Why not? Okay, so that's what I did. I jumped in and said, yep, okay, listen, through all the process, great, take the job. Sign. Of course, my husband at the time, David, was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, listen, I think this is a really big opportunity. So, all right. There I sit in the market center, and I'm there, and I'm being, kind of introduced to everybody, and there's maybe 100 people there at the office on agents, maybe more. It's not real clear how many actually work there, but I thought, well, okay, lots of people. Gosh, this is amazing. And here I am. I'm being very warmly welcomed. Oh, my goodness. I remember those first few weeks. It was so nice. I cannot even begin to thank everyone that was there that time for the oh my gosh, it was so awesome. I thought, first of all, I do not deserve any of this. This is wow, you guys are so nice to me. But then I was like, thank you. Gosh, it really feels good to be recognized. And okay, my God, these people think I'm pretty nice and pretty neat, I guess. Holy shit, I better really prove to these people that I know what the hell I'm doing. Okay, so then I thought, well, I'm being hired as a team leader. I'm not even really sure what that is. And the funny thing is, those first couple of months that I worked there, I had not read the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book yet. I had been offered it many times. I had heard all about it. I had heard plenty of stories about what's inside. But I would fall asleep at night after my days at the Market Center with that book on my chest after desperately trying to have read a chapter or two. Fell asleep with it on my chest, and then I just kind of hoped that maybe that information fell into my body through osmosis or, like some sort of, I don't know, interstellar, galactic, something. Listen, Hail Mary, right? I had no idea. So anyway, I am, struggling just to kind of get going and get this all figured out and everything. And I thought, wow, this is really great. Okay, so then I thought, well, I'm going to have to show them that I really know what I'm talking about. So every time I could, I answered a question. I jumped into a meeting. I took a lead at the team meetings on Tuesdays, and I just wanted to talk and share and try to say, gosh, bring me your question. I hope I can answer it, and I was having a lot of success, and I was starting to really gain some trust. So then one day I was in the Market Center, and I noticed as I walked back toward the back of the offices, back where we had this little training room and kitchen area. And there was a woman sitting back there just by herself doing some work, and she kind of had papers spread all over. And I went in and I said, hey, I'm Christy, and can you remind me of your name? Because again, I was trying to remember everybody, and it was kind of hard. And so she told me her name, and I just sat and found myself talking to her and learning about her story and her life and her passions and everything about her. And I just kept learning. And then all of a sudden I was like, wow, I really love this. Wow, this lady, neat. Okay, cool. So then as I look over toward the doorway, I see the other team leader come walk by the door, and she gives me the little signal like, hey, come here. Come on, come here. And so I said, oh my gosh, excuse me. I've got to go talk with her. Thank you for your time. My gosh, it was so nice of you to spend so much time with me, is what I told this other agent as I'm walking out of the room. And I follow the other team leader into an office, and I said, yeah. She goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just having a good conversation in there, and I'm really learning a lot about her. What, why? What's up? What do you need? And she said, we have basically one job and one job here alone, and that is to recruit. You were hired to do that, and that means you need to be calling agents, setting up appointments, and bringing them into the market center. And the quicker you could do it, the better. So I need you to focus, and I don't need you spending time in there talking to agents that may or may never sell anything, and I need you to focus on these other producers out in the field. And I kind of stood there. I was like, okay, yeah, okay, you got it. Right, I understand. Okay, yes, of course. So I walked back into my office, and I said, wow, okay, okay. And I sat down, and I looked at that roster of all those names on that list that were already there, and I thought about who I just been talking to in the training room, and I said, well, wait a minute. These agents here have already said yes to us. They've already said yes to this company. They've already said yes to this system. Hell, they've already spent a ton of money to be here. Why can't I just teach all of them to sell a bunch of houses first? We'll be more profitable, which will help me make more money, right? And then the market center will make more money, and then my operating principal will be happier. But I'm not really sure about who she is yet. I'm not really clear on her situation. And I'll explain in a minute. But anyway, long story short, I looked at that list of people and I said, I want to teach them how to sell houses first if they don't know how yet. And if they do know how, if I can help them sell more or do it better or follow the Buffini model, which is my lifeline, why can't I do that? At that very moment, standing in that room by myself with the door closed, I wish I'd recognized that I should not move forward with that job. Because the one thing that I didn't estimate correctly about my time at Keller Williams was the true statement, recruiting fixes everything. Yes, it does. But it also creates things too. And some of the things it creates are not so pleasant. I share the story about that day in the market center to kind of let you know a little bit of insight into what kind of team leader I was trying to be. I was trying to be a team leader, and ultimately I ended up as the team leader and the managing broker of the office. So not only did I have to have the real estate chops and help every agent with their transactions and ultimately review and sign off on everything, which I was passionate about, the compliance and the doing real estate correctly. But then I also had to do my double job of the recruiting side of it. And the recruiting side of it, the lies, the schemes, the stories, the persuasion, the conversation, the banter, the game, the back and forth. I had played it thousands of times with buyers and sellers. I knew that game, and I should have recognized then I didn't like it. Now, I thought, I'll learn. I'll learn to like it. I'll learn. And I'll get more familiar with this company, and I'll understand more about it, and it will make me more impassioned and empowered to turn around and recruit and recruit and recruit. And there will be no problems whatsoever, and it will be a wonderful, wonderful experience. And so I just said, I can do both. I can do both. I should have looked more closely around at the other team leaders and wondered, are they doing both? But I saw them as being wildly successful, wealthy, 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 smart, smart, smart. And so I said, if they can do it, I can do it. And guess what? If they can do it, I can do it better. So, starting the next phase of my market center management then, I started to focus on profitability. I still did not understand the accounting system in Keller Williams at all. Let me tell you a little bit about the accounting system at Keller Williams, or at least the way it was when I was there. So let me just preface that by saying one of the greatest things about Keller Williams is their innovative process. Man, they innovate. Sometimes I think they innovate too much, but I say that because of this experience. When you are in a market center, you have an unusual kind of layout of staff, but it's a common structure. It's a CEO that reports to an owner who is kind of then considered maybe chairman of the board. You really don't have a board of directors, but you have this agent leadership council, which is supposed to really consult you on very, very important policies and the ways to run the market center, because it is an agent-driven company. They're your board of directors, if you will. And then you've got your staff. You've got a financial person, a CFO, which we would call then an MCA. Hell, I always said I should really just stop what I'm doing in every part of real estate and write a book on all the acronyms that we have in real estate. And if I did that and sold that, explaining all of our acronyms, I would be just beyond wealthy. And but anyway, so there in Keller Williams, their financial officer is called the Market Center Administrator, an MCA. And then many MCAs have support staff because it's a big job. So I started to learn a little bit about that reporting, and every month I would meet with my MCA and my owner, and I would sit down with them and go through the numbers. And every month it was looking pretty good. I thought, damn, pretty good. Good office. They manage expenses well. They seem to be making good money. Got some pretty good agents in production. I could use a few more. That's right, I've got to recruit. I'll home grow a dozen this year, and my God, we will just be making money. So I felt pretty good about things, and so I kept going along and kept working just to meet the agents and get my bearings in the market center. And some things changed, and I found myself then as the sole team leader and the broker of the office, and so then I was carrying on, and I was kind of doing my thing, and really in those years everything I really felt was doing pretty well. There was still a vibe from corporate that you still, ran your market center, had a little bit of autonomy. Recruiting is so important. Look for opportunities, watch your numbers, go through where you can recruit from, what changes are happening, what's your competition up to, that kind of recruiting. But I felt like I had a good moment there. I felt like I had a year and a half where I could just kind of run the office, and we could do our charitable work, and we could do our fun stuff, and everything just seemed to be really kind of clicking along. Until one day I got a call from my owner, and she said, Christy, there's some strange things happening in the market center on the financial side. Are you available to talk? And so I called her right back. I said, of course I am available. What's happening? And she said, I'm not sure. I think there's something weird going on with our credit card, but I don't know what's going on, and I can't get a hold of our MCA. I need to find out if she's there. I need to talk to her. And I said, sure. So I hung up and walked around. I walked outside, and there she sat outside with another agent crying on the front patio bench outside the front door. And I said, what's wrong? We're close. And everybody, around that office knew each other, and we cared about one another. And I said, what's going on? And she said, oh man, it's been a terrible day, and I've made a mistake on the credit card, and I'm just having the worst day. Worst day. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and go home. And I was like, wow, really? I said, well, please talk to Linda before you leave. And she said, okay. So she went back in and spoke and then left and everything. And it was kind of a whirlwind. And I'm going to fast forward a few weeks just to say that, and this is all public record, it's all well documented, but over the course of the coming weeks and couple of months, I uncovered over $150,000 worth of money that was stolen by this MCA financial manager in the office in a variety of ways. And it was heart-wrenching. It was the experience of finding out as I kept going more and more into what was wrong and working with the assistant MCA in those days, piecing together what was wrong and piecing together what was going on without the main MCA knowing what we were finding. Because if nothing, I said, if this truly is happening, I want there to be accountability. By God, heads are going to roll. If there is this much money missing from me, my family, my agents, this staff, anybody, if my dog was denied a dog treat because somebody else stole this money from me, I was going to be hot. And bravado and puffing at your chest in times like that is a natural reaction, but it masks what you're truly feeling inside. I want to wrap up this part of this episode by talking about that betrayal. When I realized that someone in my professional sphere was so profoundly cheating, stealing, and lying to me on a daily basis with no gumption for anything other than selfishness on her part. She took. She forged things. She forged tax records. She forged documents. She manipulated the system, the Keller Williams accounting system. She manipulated it. She manipulated reports. Anything that she could to cover the tracks. But we found it, and we hired the right people to help us find it and make sure, 100% sure, that what we were looking at was true and correct before I made any moves to have her arrested or fired or anything. I had to be sure I was right. And please hear me when I say that when I was discovering that I was right, it was the darkest time that I had had since my father had died. I felt a betrayal that shook me to my core. I became so changed by that situation because I was meticulously going through statement after statement, and the other staff person that did it did a Herculean job in carefully looking at every single piece of information in those financial records and tracking it and making sense of it, or figuring out when and where it was stolen and where it was moved to and from, and where it, ultimately landed and how much and when, and then maybe why. And I would go back to Facebook and I would match up when we knew money had left our accounts, what happened in her life on Facebook. And typically it was a car, a trip to Disney, plastic surgery, you name it. And I felt so stupid. How? Number one, could I let this happen? And number two, who is going to do this to me and to everyone in this place? That's the second moment at Keller Williams that I should have realized that I need to go. Should have been 2 strikes and you're out, but I stayed in it. I tried to handle that situation of that embezzlement case as gracefully as I could. I did everything the best I knew how. I protected everyone that I could. I tracked every dollar amount I could. I held her accountable. She has been found guilty. The Market Center is getting restitution. I hope to this day they still are. I have no knowledge if they are. I believe I should still be getting some restitution from that settlement. I am not, but I am not pursuing it. I understand that it happened, and I hope that the lady who did it, I'm not going to call her a lady, the absolute scumbag bitch who did it, sorry, who is hopefully still being held accountable for what she did. I want those other people to be made whole, if possible, financially. I will never be made whole financially because of how I was treated then when I left the market center down the road, but I just hope that that still is moving forward, and I do hope that restitution is being paid. But the betrayal that I felt then started me down the road of drinking that I should have recognized was going down a bad, bad, bad rabbit hole. So many nights when I would leave the market center, I would sneak drinks. I would sneak drinks in my desk. There would be wine all over the office for gifts, delivered by vendors, dropped off by clients, brought in by agents, served at every single event we possibly could to get away with it. And that was standard in the industry and still is to this day, by the way. The underlying theme of the dependent agent is the access to alcohol and the pervasiveness that it is in our industry and when it comes to our events and our social gatherings. And at this office, it was no different than any other place. It was absolutely an alcohol-fueled experience, and everyone loved it, by the way. There was a couple of people over my career there that bitched, and rightfully so. But the vast majority, I am going 98% of the people that were at that market center had no problem with it, and in fact thought it was fun and funny, and they all fucking deserved it. Okay, so there you have it. So nobody thought it was a problem. So the fact that I could drink or joke about it or pop a glass of wine in the middle of the afternoon or joke about, hey, what's really in my Yeti? I could joke about all that stuff, but I could actually be drinking and no one would be the wiser. And the amount of wine that ran through that place and that ran through any real estate office or title company or lender's office or any other real estate related business, including a realtor association that I have been a part of, has had a lot of booze fly in and out of those doors. And it could be very, very easily not tracked, or nobody would pay attention to how much was being gone or being consumed. And I clicked on something. My body and my brain clicked on the fact that if you, with everyone's knowledge, quote, air quote, knowledge, and everyone's air quote, permission, had all this alcohol around, and everyone joked about drinking wine, and that it was all just fine and dandy and healthy and good for you, and by God, you deserved it, then you were okay. And you weren't an addict. And you were fine. And you were just doing it to relax and cope and have a good time. Well, that was one of the chapters that led up to November the 8th. And I share that story. I am profoundly embarrassed that there were times that I was drinking when definitely should not have been, and definitely drank more than I should have. I'm ashamed of it. I am profoundly embarrassed by it. And I have done what I can, and I continue to try to make amends for that. And it was there, and that trigger and that stressor of that huge, huge betrayal and embezzlement just was another notch in the belt, in the grip of the addiction. So thanks for listening to this long story, and I know that it was a little bit raw, and there was some personal names and information that I gave out through there. So again, please understand I'm sharing the stories because I'm trying to draw parallels between the systems that we have in many offices and the vulnerability that it can create with some people that, like me, are definitely ones that bear an addictive personality and fly at a very, very high and fast level. And needed help to keep going at that level, and I looked for help in the wrong place. So again, thanks for listening. Christy Gessler, the Dependent Agent. Please look me up on social media. Head to the website, thedependentagent.com. Send me feedback, questions, anything you'd like. Keep the conversation going. Again, I want to remind you, if you are facing any mental health crisis of any kind or feeling down, depressed, you can now call 988. It is a wonderful resource in most areas for you to reach immediate help and get help from a mental health crisis provider. Of course, 911, always. Do not hesitate. If you are feeling dark and depressed, call 911. Call someone else who cares. Get to someone. Just raise a white flag, even briefly. Get someone to notice it. And those of you that get that call or see that white flag, please act and help. Thank y'all. I'll talk to you next time.